video for you guys on the Kugarasu. First I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers for joining the channel. Hopefully you get something out of it. Some people do, some people don't. My goal is to spread more information about Japanese swords and stuff, so we'll see. But anyways, today's about the Kogarasu. And the Kogarasu is very unique in itself. And there's actually a lot of blades the Japanese tried that are actually kind of unique in itself. But this one especially. It was made, from what they know, during the 8th century by a famous swordsmith called Anakuni. The problem is they speculate he made it because Anakuni didn't sign his swords, but it correlates with the time period. So what makes the Kogarasu so unique? The Kogarasu, what makes it so unique is it's symmetrical at the tip. And that's because this backside from the tip to right about there is a cutting edge. So it's a double-sided katana. Actually, it's a double-sided tachi. Because the Kogarasu was developed for a tachi, not a uchi katana. In fact, there's another name for it. It's not used as much, but it's called, the name is Kogarasu Maru, which means like Kogarasu Maru. So, and that I think would represent the uchi katana, the Kogarasu Maru, because, like I said, the Kogarasu was designed for a tachi, not an uchi katana. Why it was made, nobody really knows. There's a legend that the emperor at the time, this is between late Henya, early Nara, in those eras, the emperor of the time, story goes, a raven swooped down and told him to have this made. Okay. The other legend, because there's two of them, is the emperor was walking along, raven swooped down in circles, which we'll get to the name, what Kogarasu means, and said he had a gift from the shrine, Isa, I believe, is how you pronounce it, and dropped this sword on the ground. So the term raven in it could be a mistranslation or in the name, because Kogarasu means, there's two different translations to it. Little crow or little circling crow. So, or little crow circling, excuse me. There's two types of translations. Most are go off of little crow. So pretty much that's the legend behind it. What they think was, during that time period, Anakuni was, he's the designer of, he is the designer of the tachi. He developed what we have today, the curved blade. So what we see today on the uchi katana and the tachi, he invented that curvature. Single-edged, because the swords they were using at the time were kind of like the jin, but not really the jin, because that's what the Kogarasu is modeled after. The tip is the jin. But the swords were breaking in battle. even though they did a lot of battle on horseback, you still would have to engage a one-on-one sometimes. And they would draw their swords and they would break. Well, the emperor was kind of like disappointed that Anakuni's swords were breaking. So the legend has it that him and his son locked themselves after they prayed at the Shinto shrine because swordsmith forges were in Shinto shrines. Some of them still are today. So they prayed to the gods, went into the forge, locked themselves in for a month, and they came up with the tachi. So they think during this time period after that is when the kugarasu was invented. The cats are having an issue, just in case you're wondering why I keep looking down. Anyways, cats threw my train of thought off too. Just one moment. Knock it off. Okay, so the kugarasu has changed hands over the years. There was a clan Tahi, I'm probably mispronouncing it, that had possession of the kugarasu for many years. They thought it was lost for a while, because they say there was 2 others during that time period made, but there's not much on it. It came back in possession of another clan, Ida, I do believe is the name of the clan, could be pronounced that wrong. It's IDE, Ida, which during that time period, it was during the Meiji Restoration, and they handed over to the emperor, which from that point on has stayed in the emperor's personal collection. So, in fact, the image that you see now, if you look it up, the image that it comes up in the Imperial Museum is actually a replica of the kugarasu, because I do believe, if I remember correctly, the original kugarasu is in the emperor's private collection. There's 2 collections. The emperor's collection, which everyone can see, and then there's the emperor's private collection. So nobody gets to see that collection unless the emperor says so, because it's pretty much their value, parts of their history that's really valuable to them, so they're kind of under lock and key. So only certain people are allowed to see those things. Understandable, because they're probably worth a lot of money. They don't want no one mistreating them or misplacing them or stolen. So, but the kugarasu is a very unique style blade in itself, which doesn't get a lot of coverage from a lot of people. It's kind of one of those swords that's been forgotten about throughout history almost, because there weren't very many produced. In fact, historically, they don't even know if it was actually used in battle. They assume it might have been used for ceremonial purposes, not for a battlefield. Because how are you going to use back edge on... I mean, you could use a back edge in battle coming back, but everybody's wearing armor. So, like I said, there's just not much on it because nobody recorded it. Is this a sword you could use for Iaido? This is my opinion. No. I would not use this for Iaido. For the simple fact that that back edge is sharp, doing no-toe with it, you could lose a few digits. I'm thinking about doing a video on a no-toe that you could do with this, that I think would be the most safest way. I mean, it's not foolproof, and by no means whatsoever. So caution still has to be taken. But I think it would be the best way to do Noto with this type of sword, that you're not going to get cut. Because, I mean, it is a serious thing having a double edge. Okay, it really is. So, and you don't do Noto with the Jin neither, because the Chinese don't do Noto. They just resheath it. That's it. That's all they do. So, and they don't do Shibari. So, and back in those days of feudal Japan, when they were warring, they didn't do Shibari neither. They just wiped the blade off, resheathed it, and went about their day. That's all they did. So, I'll do a video on resheathing it. Now, done a few cutting with this sword, the Kogarasu. Did short with it. It is a fun sword to cut with. It really is. It is super light. It's lighter than my Unabakai. And I have 2 of those. And this is way lighter than those. Would I use it for heavy cutting? No. This is not a bamboo cutter for sure. I wouldn't attempt trying to use this on Gatorade bottles because they're really thick. So light, pretty much light targets I would use this for, but it's super fun to do. Especially with that double edge, you could really pierce a water bottle with it pretty good if you hit it just right. Did have to put an edge on this one, which is fine. I mean, it just zips right through a target now. So they can be fun, but you have to remember, if you're used to using a regular uchi katana, and this is a shobu, so it just has a really prolific dip, which shobu means iris, leaf. You got a mune, the back spine that you can run your finger on, you know, to do Noto. Well, you got to remember, if you have a kugarasu, you can't do that, so it's a totally different playing field. But they are fun. So if you stick around, we'll have a little bit of a cutting video with the kugarasu, and then probably a little bit cutting with the shobu. And I hope everyone's having a good holiday, good 4th of July. Be safe out there. Be safe with fireworks. Heat's gone up, and I know it's just not here in our state, but in other states, so be mindful of that, and we'll see you guys on the next one.